پر محمد و آل محمد صلوات. بھیا آ گئی زینب، بھیا آ گئی زینب، بھیا بھیا تیرا چہلم منان تربت پہ قید خانے سے آ گئی زینب، پاس تیری سکینہ کو ساتھ اپنے نہ لا سکی زینب، بھیا آ گئی زینب. ہائے 18 بھائیوں والی بیردا شام ہو کے آئی ہے، نیل زخموں کے اور بازو پر رسیوں کے نشان لائی ہے، تو نے پالا تھا جس کو نازوں سے، اب وہ زینب نہیں رہی زینب، بھیا آ گئی زینب. اتنے چھالے پڑے ہیں پیروں میں، مجھ سے بھیا چلا نہیں جاتا، دل یہ کہتا ہے کہہ دوں سب تم سے، پر زباں سے کہا نہیں جاتا، کبھی کانٹوں بھری زمین پہ چلی اور کبھی آگ پر چلی زینب، بھیا آ گئی زینب. بے کسی ماں کی یاد آتی تھی، اپنی غربت کو بھول جاتی تھی، مجھ کو دربار میں شرابی کے اماں زہرا کی یاد آتی تھی، لوگ تیری بہن پہ ہنستے تھے، سر جھکائے کھڑی رہی زینب، بھیا آ گئی زینب. وہ جو پوچھے گی اپنے اکبر کا، جا کے سغرا کو کیا بتاؤں گی، ساتھ تیرا اگر نہیں ہوگا قبر پہ ماں کے کیسے جاؤں گی، اے غریب الوطن بغیر تیرے لوٹ کر گھر نہ جائے گی زینب، بھیا آ گئی زینب. کبھی تکتی تھی وہ تیرے سر کو، کبھی عباس کو بلاتی تھی، میری آنکھوں کے سامنے بھیا تیری بچی تماچے کھاتی تھی، ہاتھ میرے بندھے تھے گردن سے، شمر کو کیسے روکتی زینب، بھیا آ گئی زینب، بھیا بھیا تیرا چہلم منان تربت پہ، قید خانے سے آ گئی زینب۔ پر محمد و آل محمد صلوات۔
صلوات۔ نعرہ تکبیر، نعرہ رسالت، نعرہ حیدری۔ دریا سے سکینہ کا جو سکہ نکلا، دریا سے سکینہ کا جو سکہ نکلا، سکائی کا ارمان نے اصلاح نکلا، سکائی کا ارمان نے اصلاح نکلا، پانی میں ملا لہو جو بہہ کر تو کہا، پانی میں ملا لہو جو بہہ کر تو کہا، دریا بھی میرے خون کا پیاسا نکلا۔ صلوات۔
محمد و آل محمد صلوات۔ Mu'minun, on Friday morning, Saturday morning and Sunday morning, there will be Fajr Jamaat Namaz for both ladies and gents. All are humbly requested to attend. Ruhani Majlis announcements is by the Warisas of Marum Ghulam Sen Manik, Gulshan Bhai Manik and Kul Marumin. Second sponsor is the Warisas of Marum Ghulam Sen Ismail, Maruma Rukia Bhai Ismail, Maruma Fatma Bhai Ghulam Sen, Marum Abbas Bhai Ghulam Sen and Kul Marumin. The next sponsor is Al-Haj Ghulam Shabir Bhai Awan and family for the Sal Sawab of Marum Muhammad Saklen Awan and Kul Marumins. The next sponsor is for the Sal Sawab of Maruma Pareen Banu Panjwani, Marum Shaukat Ali Bhai Panjwani, Marum Ali Bhai Pardhan, Marumins of Abdullah Jera Jiwa family and Kul Marumins. The next sponsor is Kulsum Bhai Danji for the Sal Sawab of Maruma Sugra Bhai Ramji, Marum Muhammad Hussain Ali Bhai Danji, Marumins of Ramji family, Marumins of Danji family and Kul Marumins. The next sponsor is Al-Haj Murtaza Bhai Walji and family for the Saleh Sawab of Maroom Aziz Fatima Ketki Begum, Maroom Muhammad Hussain Bhai Walji, Maroomins of Rahim family, Maroomins of Walji family and Kul Maroomins. The next sponsor is Mr. and Mrs. Haider Huda and Mr. and Mrs. Mikdad Khalfan for the Saleh Sawab of Maroomins of Tarbai family, Maroomins of Khalfan family, Maroomins of Ahmad Bandali Manji family, Maroomins of Ghulam Sen Hirji family and Kul Maroomins. You're all humbly requested to recite Surah Fatiha for all our Maroomins and Kul Maroomins. Al-Fatiha. Bismillah. Mu'mineen, this is the announcement from our Jamaat's Treasury Office. Arba'in Niyaz Fund is ongoing, and also the Holy Prophets Wafat Niyaz Fund is ongoing. Please forward your generous donations to the Treasurer, Bar Muhammadin wa Ali Muhammad Salawat.
اللهم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. فاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله على سيدنا مولانا حبيب إله العالمين أبو القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، ولعنة الله على القوم الظالمين من الآن إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله عبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعل الله الآخر الأحد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين يا رحمة الله الواسعة، يا باب نجاة الأمة، ويا عبرة لكل مؤمن ومؤمنات، غريب مظلوم كربلاء. فيا ليتني يا ليتني كنا معكم سادتي، فنفوز فوزا عظيما. ما بعد، قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لقد أرسلنا رسلنا بالبينات وأنزلنا معهم الكتاب والميزان ليقوم الناس بالقسط صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum. My dear brothers and sisters, Azadari Hussein, the pilgrims are already walking and the angels are preparing to welcome them. For we have now come to the days of Arba'een. And maybe I wanted to be there with my friends and family who have gone to Karbala, but I'm not. I'm here in England or wherever someone is listening at home. I didn't get that chance this year to go for the ziyarat of Arba'een to Karbala. That feeling that maybe I have missed out, maybe I wish I was there, walking to Karbala, going from mawqib to mawqib, passing pole after pole until I see the face and another and the shrine of my Imam. If only I could have seen that. This is a cause of intense regret and also acceptance that Allah chooses who gets to go. The Imam calls who he wishes. And this year wasn't my turn, but there is still some regret that I wish I could have been one of those people that I could have gone. This feeling of wanting to be in Karbala, if we extend it, it also goes to that same feeling that if only I was there on the day of Ashura, on that day, where so many people attacked so few people of haqq. فَيَا لَيْتَنِي كُنَ مَعَكُمْ. If only I had the chance to be with you, Ya Aba Abdullah, فُسْتٌ فَوْزًا عَظِيمٌ. That maybe that great reward you got, maybe I would have been part of it, but I wasn't there. This feeling of regret that I'm not there at Karbala, but I wish I could be walking, is the same, and it's an extension of that same feeling of regret of not being there with Abu Abdullah on the day of Ashura, that I wish I was there. But just like that thought of not being there on the day of Ashura, it ends with, even though I wasn't there, I still have a role to play here. I have been chosen for this life. I was given to these parents. I was born in this time, to this culture, to this family. It was all the choice of Allah Azza wa Jal for a reason. And even if I wasn't there on the day of Ashura, Allah intended me to do something from where I have been given. Somehow in the situation of my birth, there is some mission for me, some calling for me. And just because I'm not born alongside Abu Abdullah, that does not absolve me of this duty. I have to find it. Maybe I'll spend a whole lifetime searching for what that reason was, why I was born in this era. But I have to find it. Allahumma ij'al mahya Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Wa mamati mamata Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah, let me have the life of Ali Muhammad and their death. Now, if you're listening thinking, okay, I know what I want that. I want this feeling that I made the most of the time I was given and I lived the life which was Muhammadi and the death which was Muhammadi. I want that. The logical question is, well, how do I get there? What decisions do I make in my life today, whether it's day-to-day or major decisions in my life? How do I work my way towards that point where I lived like them and I died like them, even though I was alive right here and right now? Read a salawat, please. This is actually a much larger question, which is, what is my purpose? What is my aim? Why am I here? All these questions which we are meant to ask ourselves continuously. What am I doing, really? Why am I here? And if I'm making a mistake, Quran says, فَمَا لَكُمْ. What is wrong with you that you're going so far away from the actual aim you've been born with? So we're looking for that aim. And I think if I do things correctly, I can have Hayat Ali Muhammad. I can have that life. And I can have the same death. Man mata lahu bi Ali Muhammad mata shaheed. And I can have that kind of death as well. But I've got to make the right decisions. I've got to do things in such a way that I'm using my resources to my advantage. So the question is, how do I find out my purpose? How do I know what Ahlul Bayt want from me? How do I know if my Imam is even happy with me? All those questions do have an answer. And the answer to those questions, which we'll be exploring to these 5 nights of Muharram, of Arba'een inshallah, is using a resource. And this resource which we are using is a gift we have always had in our pockets alongside the Quran. We've had it in our homes. We've known about it. We've spoken about it. But when did we actually use it for this function of knowing my purpose? Inshallah, we'll get there. But to know what that thing is and how I can work my way towards living a Muhammadi life and death, we have to find our purpose in the Quran. And maybe through threading the strands of this theme through multiple verses of Quran, I will arrive at that point where you'll see what the theme is for these 5 nights. So that's our question. What is my purpose, my aim? How am I living a Husaini life away from Hussein in a different land where he doesn't have his shrine here? There is a way. And there is a way. And the Ahlul Bayt have given us a way to do this. Inshallah, we'll get there. But if you are with me in this discussion, if I have your support, inshallah, and we can begin our dive into this topic, Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And also, in order to have barakah in this event from the Prince of Imam al-Qaim al-Hujjah wa Zaman, Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The verse I mentioned earlier from Surah 57, verse 25, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلًا بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ وَأَنزَلْنَا مَعَهُمَ الْكِتَابِ وَالْمِيزَانِ. We have revealed to all of the prophets, and we sent our messengers with bayinat, with clear proofs. And we sent with them أَنزَلْنَا, يعني we revealed to them 2 things to help them. One was kitab, one was mizan. So every prophet had access to these 2 things. Whatever their function is, whatever they're going to do in this world, so they had these 2 things to help them. Either they had a book, or they had mizan. Al-mizan here means the ability to have scales to judge between right and wrong. They had this. They could tell and advise, this is husn, this is qub, this is right, this is wrong. And through giving judgments and advising, they'd get there. But why? Why have they been sent the book and the mizan? Why have they revealed it? The verse ends, لِيَقُومَ النَّاسَ بِالْقِسْطِ, so that they can establish among the people justice. Qist. That's why they've been given a book. That's why they know right and wrong. That's why we've even sent them in the first place. So that when they judge, when they rule, it has justice. So the mawdu, the subject of this verse is qist. It's justice. The resources are there for it. The tools are there for it. But the aim is this one thing. Min al-nas, among the people, qist. We should have justice. Mizan, therefore, is just a tool for justice. Knowing right and wrong is just there to help you actually establish among the people some system of justice. Same as the book. The book is not there just to be read in theory. It has to exist in practice. And indeed, the practice of the book of the Quran is the system which is a Quran-like system, which has the Ahlul Bayt and Quran in it. Okay, so already I know one thing at least. The reason why the prophets have been sent is لِيَقُومَ النَّاسِ بِالْقِسْطِ, to establish justice on this earth. Let's add another verse into the mix to contextualize it for us. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. يَا أَيُّهَا الرَّسُولُ بَلِّغْ مَا أُنزِلَ عَلَيْكَ مِنْ رَبِّكَ. O Rasul, يعني now we're talking directly to our prophet, to Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And there's a hukum, بَلِّغ, convey. Everything which came from your Lord, min al-Rabb. وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلْ, and if you don't do this final task which you've been given, فَمَا بَلَّغْتَ رِسَالَتَهُ, you've not revealed this actual message you've got, you've not done it. You've not even completed it. If you don't baligh everything which has come from your Lord. Okay. Now the verse continues, وَاللَّهُ يَعْصِمُكَ مِنَ النَّاسِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَهْدِي الْقَوْمَ الْكَافِرِينَ. Meaning whatever you're going to reveal, the verse continues, and Allah will certainly protect you from the people. So maybe you reveal something which they don't like, or they don't agree with, or that it's hard for them to accept. But Allah will accept you, and He will not help those who are kafirin. Okay, let's put these verses together. Ayatul Madahri puts them together. One verse says, all the prophets have one role, establish justice. Another verse says, to our holy prophet, you have not completed your task, which was what? Justice. Unless you do this action, this amal. And of course, where do we see this in practice? We see this in practice on the day of Ghadir. When Rasulullah holds up the hands of Amir al-Mu'minin and says, Man kuntu mawla fahada aliyun mawla. And now we understood what that verse meant in the first place. Al-yawm akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati. This is the day we finally perfected your religion. It's done now, it's complete. You've announced the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'minin, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Ya Ali. This implies something very important, which is the mission of the Prophet is not complete until the wilayat of our Amir begins. We know this. One step further, the justice of Rasulullah is not complete until Ali continues that justice after him. He has to continue the project. Al-yawm akmaltu lakum dinakum. We've perfected it. It's finished. يعني ليقوم الناس بالقسط, that mission we gave you ages ago from Adam until you, Ya Rasulullah, to establish justice on this earth. You're finished now, you're leaving this earth. But someone must continue that same task, and that person is none other than Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Read a salawat. So now, Shaykh Mutahari adds a third verse to keep the line going further. Are you guys with me, inshallah? First verse says, prophets must establish justice. Second verse says, Rasul does not establish justice until he completes conveying his message. Third verse, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ. Muhammad is nothing except a prophet, a Rasul. قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ رَسُولٌ. Just like the prophets who came before him. He's like all of those other prophets. They had that same task before them. أَفَإِن مَاتَ. So if he dies, وَإِن قَتْلُوا, and if he is killed, أَوْ قُتِلُوا, أَنْقَلَبْتُمْ عَلَىٰ أَعْقَابِكُمْ. Are you going to turn back on your heels now? That now he's done, he's dead. Are you going to leave him now? Just because he's died? وَمَنْ يَنْقَلِبُ عَلَىٰ عَقِبَيْهِ فَلَنْ يَضُرُ اللَّهُ شَيْئًا. Well, the one who leaves the Prophet now that he's died, they've not hurt anyone. They've not even hurt Allah. وَسَيَجْزِي اللَّهُ لِشَاكِرِينَ. And Allah Azza wa Jal stays with those who have shukr, who are grateful. Meaning what? That mission of the Prophet, it continues after he's died, of establishing justice on this earth. So whether he's died, and whether there's one Imam, second, third, fourth, however many Imams come after, all of time from that moment onwards continues with the same one mission, لِيَقُومَ النَّاسِ بِالْقِسْطِ. Establishing justice on this earth. That mission has to remain. Whether he's alive or dead, are you going to turn away from the mission now just because he's died? You have no right to, the Quran says. So that mission he began, either continues, or everyone who follows after must follow whatever Ali says in establishing justice on this earth. So earlier when I began, some of you who came late will not have heard this, I said we want to know our purpose. Like, what's my aim? What am I doing here? And how do I live a Muhammadan lifestyle? Here's something of an answer from Ayat al-Mutahari in these verses. Establishing justice on this earth. That was always the aim from the beginning. That was the aim from the start. لِيَقُومَ النَّاسِ بِالْقِسْطِ. And I've just read, if I want to establish justice after the death of the Holy Prophet, I must go to the door of Ali. That door helps me. This is no normal door. This is Babullah. This is the door towards God. It's not any door. This is Babullah, from the one who was born in Baytullah. The one who was born in the house of God, taking me by my hand towards God. When I put my hand in his hands, Quran says, Yadullahu fawqa aydihim. Your hands are in the hands of God. So actually I'm putting my hands in the hands of Yadullah to go back to Allah. That's who I'm following. Now, he must have something to do with adl, with justice. One of our scholars says that Ali's hadith, Imam Ali's hadith, there are 3 times more a hadith about adl than even Rasulullah. So after the death of the Prophet, this idea of establishing justice continues manifold from the life of Imam Ali alayhi salam. So now the correct question is, I understand the theme. I want to know my purpose. I know who I'm going to. I'm going to Ali. What will Ali show me about where Ali wants me to live right now? Where will he take me? He's taking my hand towards God, establishing justice. What does it look like for Imam Ali alayhi salam to take you by the hand and take you towards a system where you are doing God's work on this earth? In order to answer this question and to continue answering this question throughout the 5 nights, we turn to letter 52 or 53 in some versions of Nahj al-Balagha, which is the most famous letter of this book. Imam Ali's letter to Malik Al Ashtar, when he sends him to Egypt to be the governor over them. He gives him some advice about how he should situate himself and what his role is far away from his Imam to establish justice. I need to look at this letter to know what my role is today in knowing my stances. Read a salawat, please. Imagine a perfume salesman who goes from place to place selling perfume, taking it from his pocket, spraying on others, saying, smell, buy my produce, it's most fragrant. When will that salesman take the perfume and spray himself and feel the same fragrance which he is selling? This is how one of our scholars describes Nahj al-Balagha. This book, we tell everyone about this book. We preach so much about the peak of eloquence that Sharif Radhi compiled. And I tell the whole world my Imam spoke in this many sermons and letters and short speeches. When will I open the book and myself taste the same fragrance which I'm selling to others of Nahj al-Balagha? And there's no better place to start than that most famous letter that we have, that in 2002, when the UNDP, the United Nations Agency of Development, wanted to make a report to show the Arab people what is the ideal way to live. They, in 2002, made a report, the ADP, and in the report they said that we can find no greater role model for the Arab world today than Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. There's no one else. And they found from that letter 6 points which they gave to non-Shi'i to run their countries. And then in that same year, Kofi Annan, who was then General Secretary, goes public and says, I have looked into the history. And after the Prophet Muhammad of the Muslims, I see no one who's a greater and more fair governor than Ali ibn Abi Talib. He said that. I have said this to others. I've told non-Muslims about my Imam. I've given them Nahj al-Balagha. When did I open and read that letter to know what it says? Have I even read it from front to cover even once? Here's the problem. Why am I selling a fragrance which I myself am not benefiting from? What was that letter? Let me tell you, inshallah. In the year 38 after Hijrah, Imam Ali Islam sends Malik to Egypt. Now before, there had been others in Egypt. Muhammad bin Abi Bakr was the ruler before, and before him was Amr ibn As, in the Khalifat of the third Khalifa. In the most recent time, Muhammad bin Abi Bakr is there. He, as all of you know, supports the Imam alayhi salam in his battles in Jamal later on. For that reason, because he's living in Egypt in a time where the people just before him have been following who? Amr ibn As. They are preparing a revolt against him. Imam Ali notices this, he sees this, that one of my commanders is about to be overrun. And although Muhammad ibn Bakr is a very loyal companion, he's not Malik Al Ashtar. So the Imam says, Malik, you're currently the governor of mine in Nasiban. I want you to leave from here, give another ruler, go to Egypt. When? 38, go there. When he goes there, Amr ibn As realizes that this revolt I was going to prepare to take back Egypt, maybe I could have beaten Muhammad ibn Bakr in battle, but I can't beat Malik Al Ashtar. Malik is one of the greatest companions of the Imam, one of the greatest commanders of the Imam, and one of the most fiercely loyal friends of the Imam. When he dies, they said it's like we've cut off one of Ali's arms on this day. Malik is so close to the Imam. So he sends Malik. Now when Malik ibn Ashtar goes to Egypt, his role is to represent his Imam and be an ambassador for his Imam in this land. Speak for him, give judgments for him, take people back towards him. Why is Malik sent? Malik was sent because he himself had that kirdar, that honor in him. That the Imam would say, Imam Ali himself said, Malik is to me as I was to Rasulullah. He's that close to me. I trust him with this task. To give you an example, a snapshot of who this man is, to know why he's been given this mission. One day Malik Al Ashtar is in the valleys in Egypt, in one of the markets. Okay, he's wearing normal clothes, like humble clothing, nothing too fancy. A man comes to him from the Nakhan tribe. He comes towards him, he starts insulting him, abusing him, cursing him, making fun of his appearance. Who is this simpleton in the streets? You know, we judge people by their clothing. Sometimes he judges Malik. He leaves. Later on, someone says to him, do you know who you've insulted? You've insulted the governor of Amir al-Mu'mineen in this land. Okay, he looks humble, but he's a warrior on the battlefield. That's who you've insulted. The man runs after him. Where is he? Where is he? Chases him. He hears the noise of Salat. He goes to pray. He notices that same man he was insulting is now leading Salat in front of everyone. So, Waran is his name. He goes to him after Salat and says, I didn't know who you were. I'm so sorry. You are the Amir I have heard before in this land of Egypt. If you insult the ruler, you can be killed for it. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. Malik turns and says, I've already forgiven you. Who do you think I've come to pray for except for you? I've come to pray for you. I've come to do dua for you for what you did. I've come to ask God to forgive you. I've forgiven you. That's Malik. Amr ibn As realizes he can't kill this man in open combat. He just can't beat Malik. Instead, he decides at that time to have a plot. In a land called Al Ashtar, which is just far from there, he says, call Malik after his time in Egypt for an invitation for a da'wah. He calls him. When he calls him, they mix poison in honey and feed it to Malik Al Ashtar. It's after he consumes that poison that he dies, while he's governor of Egypt, just after that time. When he dies, of course, the enemy Muawiyah celebrates, and Ali alayhi salam says that the women have now been barren to have a child like Malik again. If Malik would be a mountain, he'd be a solitary mountain. If Malik was a stone, he'd be solid. No deer would come to this mountain, no bird would fly over this stone. That's my Malik. And now he's left me. When the Imam sends Malik, so now you know he trusts him, he gives him so much piece of advice. And the role of this advice is the same thing which we want. I want to know, how do I represent my Imam when I've been sent away from him? Because every single one of us is an ambassador for our Imam today. He sent us to our environment. Our Imam knows where we are. He knows I'm in the West. He knows I'm not in Karbala. He knows I wasn't born on Ashura. But he knows I have a mission to establish justice on this earth. How do I establish justice? Let's, for the next 5 minutes, look at this letter to see exactly how I establish justice in my own social and political responsibility, inshallah. Let me tonight, and we don't have much time, read for you just a few sections of this sermon, of the beginning of this letter, to know where we are going. Read a salawat, please. Imam begins, هذا ما أمر به عبد الله علي أمير المؤمنين مالك بن حارث الأشتر. This is the order that I send Amir al-Mu'mineen to Malik Al Ashtar في أحد إليه حين والله مصر. This is my order to you, Malik, when I've sent you to Misr, to Egypt. Your role is جبتة خراجها, to collect the revenue of this land, وجهاد عدوك, to fight the enemy of this land, واستسلاح أهلها, to be close to the people of this land and to establish goodness among them, وَإِمَارَةَ بِلَادِهَا, and make this city prosperous. That's why I've sent you. Collect the revenue, fight the enemies, help the people, protect the land. أَمْرُهُ بِتَقْوَى اللَّهِ, I send you, Malik, to establish taqwa. That's your role on this land. وَإِثَارُ تَاعَتِهِ, and I want you to be in continuous ita'ah to Allah Azza wa Jal. اتباع ما أمر به بكتابه, every time you act, you must follow this kitab min fara'id wa sunanin, in its fara'id and its rulings and in its sunnah. Everything which you do must come from these things. التي لا يسمو أحد إلا باتباعها. Someone who does not do these things cannot achieve good virtue. ولا يشقى إلا مع جهودها. And someone who does not follow these things will not be saved by evil. Malik, this is my order to you. وَأَنْ يَنْيَسَّرَ اللَّهُ سُبْحَانَهُ, if you help Allah, Malik, بِيَدِهِ وَقَلْبِ وَلِسَانِ, with your hands, with your heart, and with your tongue. فَإِنَّهُ جَلُّ أَسْمَاءُ, if Allah, you do this for Allah. قَدْ تَكَفَّلُوا بِالنَّصْرِ مِنْ نَصَرَهُ وَعِزُّ مَنْ عَزَّهُ. The one who you help, Allah will now help you. The one who you give honor to, He'll now give honor to you. This point I'm making now, this is the advice for all of us. When you do God's work, how does Allah help you? أَن يَكْسِرُ نَفْسَهُ عِنْدَ الشَّهَوَاتِ, He will now help you to fight against shahawat in your desires. He'll stop you, those desires having power over you. وَيَزَاءَهُ عِنْدَهُ جَمَهَاتِ فَإِنَّ النَّفْسَ أَمَّارَةٌ بِالسُّوءِ إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ اللَّهِ. And you will find, Malik, you will find that because you are now doing actions for Allah, your heart no longer wants to follow its desires. This statement of the Imam is the same linguistically as what Allah says to Nabi Yusuf in the Quran. That on those 2 occasions when Zulaykha was coming towards him to help him, he said, if you turn to me, I will help you fight your desires. And it's nafsat amaratun bisuh illa ma rahimallah. It will not, by the sake of the mercy of God, your nafs will no longer take you away. Ya'ani Malik, when you lead, there's going to be temptation. There's going to be fierce temptation and desire. That now you're in leadership, you're in rulership. And the moment you're in power, you will feel that desire to corrupt. You'll feel that desire in you. And I'm telling you, Malik, your role is to represent me. He keeps reading. Amrahu bitaqwallah wa itharu ta'ati. I command you to have taqwa and to have iman to you. He says later, ثم أعلم يا مالك إني قد وجهتك إلى البلاد قد حرث عليه دولة قبلكم من عدل وجور. Where I'm sending you, before I sent you, they have tasted both good and bad rulers. This land of Egypt. They've had Muhammad Abu Bakr, a leader of mine. They've had Amr ibn As. And the people, الناس ينتظروا, they're going to watch you, they're going to see you. What are your statements? How are you speaking? What are your orders and your commands? And when they watch you, they are going to judge you. And when they judge you, they'll speak about you. And when they speak about you, make sure your reputation among the people is good. And you have good affection among them. One final thing he says, وَأَشْعِرْ قَبْلَ الرَّحْمَةِ الرِّعِيَّةِ. Make sure in your heart you have love for your ra'iyya. Ra'iyya are your subjects, those who you rule. Our Holy Prophet Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, has said all people have a ra'iyah. All people have someone who they answer to or who answers to them. Yani when you say they have to listen, everyone has someone like that. Either in a family structure or at work or in business or in a community or even for a moment when you happen to be in a position of power over them. Everyone has their ra'iyah. Malik, you have a ra'iyah. All of Egypt must listen to you. They have to follow your commandments. So make sure in your heart you have muhabbatan lahum, have love for them. وَلُطْفُ بِهِمْ, have kindness for them. وَلَا تَكُونُ عَلَيْهِ سُبْعًا ذَرِيًّا, don't be like them and stand above them like a wolf or like an animal. تَخْتَحْتِمُ الْأَكْلُهُمْ, as if you're ready to devouring them. فَإِنَّهُمْ سِنْفَانِ, no Malik, they are of two types. أَمَّا أَخٌ لَكَ فِي الدِّينِ, either they are your brothers in faith, وَإِمَّا نَذِيرٌ لَكَ فِي الْخَلْقِ, or they are equal in humanity. That's where that comes from. He's saying, Malik, you might want to be a beast over them. You might have that temptation. But innahum sinfan, they are of two types. Either they are your brother in faith or you're equal in humanity. I've heard this my whole life, this statement. Imam Ali says, someone's your brother in faith, equal in humanity. Now I know the context. Now I know who it was said to. It was said to Malik. And after he says it to him, he says they are one of these two types. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to slip up. They're going to make a problem for you. They're going to conspire. When they do, Malik, have pardon for them. Because Allahu fawqakum, Allah's over you. Wala amarakum fawqakum, and your Imam is over you. Wallahu fawqa, and Allah is above both of us. We are all under the order of Allah. So don't abuse this power. This mentality that all people are of two types, either my brother in faith or my equal in humanity. This is an entire philosophy of the ethics of Islam, which only comes from the voice of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. That all people you see, they're in one of two groups. Either you have ideological mutuality with them, and you believe the same things. Okay, then they're your brother and sister in faith. You have that similarity. What if they're not? What if you just don't agree with them? Okay, their value as a human has not gone. They're still an insan fi khalq. They were still created alongside you. This mentality is absent, unfortunately, in the West where we are right now. All people are not viewed as your brother, sister in faith or equal in humanity. This is absent from their mindset. And there's a reason for this. The entire definition of adl in the West is completely different to the definition of adl from Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam. Let me give you a bit more detail, inshallah. In the West, the philosophers who've defined justice, usually you'll find Plato, you'll find Socrates, and more contemporary, you'll find Rawls. Their definition of justice is not the same as Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Tomorrow in discussion we'll go through how Ali defines justice. But it's not what Plato says, for example, which is justice for Plato is every individual finding their own role in society, their function. That's not our justice. It's a portion, but not all of it. Or Rawls, the more contemporary thinker, he says justice is making sure all human beings can live the maximum amount of liberty which they can, the most freedom, unless it harms someone else's freedom. That's not the justice of Ali alayhi salam. There are a few problems with this view. The reason why even Muslims and non-Muslims believe in the same view today is because of a conspiracy done by Banu Abbas and Banu Umayyah against Ahl al-Bayt. What do I mean? In the life of Imam Ali alayhi salam, he's speaking about adl and justice. This letter, everyone's read it, everyone knows it. Okay. When the time comes for the Imam of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam, now the Imam alayhi salam, the sixth Imam, has a university with him, a whole hawza with him, 12,000 students listening to him. The Khulafa of that time are of course worried that what if the ilm of Ahl al-Bayt and their views become widespread in the community? What happens to Banu Abbas and Banu Umayyah? Mansur al-Dawaniqi, for example, was very worried about this fact. So he had a few schemes, a few plots. One plot, as you know, from Banu Umayyah, he learned that you can't just kill Ahl al-Bayt. You can't, because then Ashura happens, a whole movement happens. Those 4 uprisings after this of Abdullah, they happened in sequence. We can't have that. Okay, what do? Let's try and take the ilm away from Ahl al-Bayt. How about we send people to debate them? So they sent many people to debate against Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and later on Imam al-Qadhi, Imam Rida alayhi salam. But they found anyone who they would send, their ideology and their knowledge was so much weaker than the Imam they're speaking to, even their followers would then join the Imam. There are sometimes they send someone to debate against Imam Sadiq, beat him in a battle. Imam Sadiq says, I don't even need to debate him. Hisham bin Hakam, you debate him, you destroy him. Yani our followers are this high, they can defeat the ulama of other faiths. It's not working. Okay, what do we do instead? Okay, let's make, they thought, firqas, let's make tariqas, different sects to go against Ithna Ashari. whether it's Zaydi, Ismaili, Kaysaniya. In this time, let's fund and encourage other groups so they don't follow the Imam. It didn't work. Most people stayed true to Ithna Ashari. What do you do instead? Then they came across this tactic. Let's translate, they thought, books from Greek and make them into Arabic. Books of Plato, of Plato, Socrates, Aristotle. And now, all of the Muslims are gaining knowledge, but they're saying the name of this knowledge came from Ghair Ahl Bayt. They came from a philosopher, a thinker of another field. And slowly but surely, now the contemporary scholars like Farabi and Ghazali and those scholars are now engaging directly with the Greek philosophers, not with Ahlul Bayt anymore. Then what did? They took the answers of the ulama, translated it into other languages and taught it to the West. So many of the people in the West, the first time they heard of Greek philosophy was from books translated in Arabic, where they took the ilm of Ahlul Bayt, but took away the name of who said these things. So many of the ilm which they appreciate now was misattributed to other philosophers and other thinkers. So now what happens? Europe goes into its golden age and the Arab world goes into its dark age. And Europe now becomes the center of technology and ilm and movement. And because they have taken the ilm from Ahlul Bayt without giving the name of Ahlul Bayt back to them. So sometimes you'll see aspects of this letter in, you're thinking, this is familiar, I've seen this before, you have seen it, but no one knows that it came from Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. What happens next? Now Arab world goes into its own dark age, we have colonialism now, where you have Muslim lands conquered by British, by French, by Belgium, and by other countries, and by Americans later. So now those same lands of Islam, we can't even read our own books anymore. We have our own dark age, and it wasn't even that long ago. Okay, what happens next? Next, Europe has its age of the Renaissance. So now they've defeated the church, the king is no longer supreme, the people can use their own aql, their rationality to decide how to govern themselves. Democracy comes from here, and at the same time, the cost of this democracy is the sacking of Delhi, the destruction of Karbala, the enslavement of India. So now we are not able to actually follow adl when dhulm is happening to us. What happens next? Now is the age of technology. So now they're using all this knowledge of algebra, which they got from the students of Sadiq alayhi salam, and knowledge of math, which they got from our own thinkers, and they're building computers and algorithms and technology which will conquer the world from ilm taken from Ahlul Bayt without saying it's from Ahlul Bayt. And in the period which happens, the reconstruction period which happens after, the Muslims have no idea of this letter to Malik Al Ashtar. We were never taught it. We had 200 years where we were not allowed to even read books in Arabic, because we were taught by British and colonizers in our own lands. So this letter becomes alien. It takes a non-Muslim United Nations to teach some Muslims a book which was always in their homes. And what happens after that is, all of the West now becomes secular. They don't need religion anymore. And I've now come to the West, from my hometown, from India, Pakistan, from Tanzania, from wherever. And I've come with Nahj al-Balagha, with Quran. And I'm living in a time where there's no need for religion, no need for, everything is materialist. And in order to actually speak about these issues, they say we're backwards. They say, why are you mentioning Allah and Islam to philosophy and ethics and religion and academia? It's not needed. So my task now is, number one, know what is the adl of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam? What is it? How does he define this concept? And so now when I'm in the West, what I bring is the true teachings of Islam justice on this earth. And I'm speaking for my Imam in this land where they don't even know how to speak about Ali, where people are oppressed in this land, people have a dhulm done to them, and they don't know the solution came from Ahlul Bayt. Now I can give it to them. And inshallah, I believe until the day of Arba'in, we have 4 majlises after today, we can get through the entirety of this letter. If I'm selective in the areas which we focus on, and I give a brief summary, you can always read along, inshallah, in your own time. We can get to the end of this letter from now until the last day to know exactly what's said and how I find my role in this letter. Inshallah, in tomorrow's discussion, in tomorrow's lecture, we will see how does Ali alayhi salam define justice, define adl in this letter. In the night after, we will see how does Imam alayhi salam describe the ideal society which Malik must establish. Everyone has their own role. What's that role? In the night after that, we will see what about the mustad'afin, those who are poor and oppressed. How does Imam alayhi salam give me a very special template for helping that community? And finally, inshallah, we will see that how can I make my activism more spiritual and my spirituality more practical. Imam Ali ends his letter with this advice to Malik. So that's our 5 discussions, including tonight, inshallah. And inshallah, you are with me in those discussions. So we end today by introducing the letter of 52/53 of Nahj al-Balagha. And from there, we will find how I know what is my role today for my Imam alayhi salam. Inshallah. Read as-salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Let us, inshallah, spend a few moments thinking of those Asiran Sham, those original Zawar who would visit Abu Abdullah after he was killed, and now they are entering into the land of Sham. Think to yourself, when they left the land of Medina, there was a leader in Abu Fadl Abbas, in Abu Abdullah. There was youth, there was shabab, there were jawan, there was warriors. And initially there were hundreds, sometimes there were thousands, then there were 72. Now there are no men left except Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. And now they are the ones walking to the gates of Sham, about to enter into that land. Many people today are walking to Karbala. Maybe you have walked to Karbala. However you walked, you did not walk like they walked from Kufa to Sham. There is nothing like this journey. In the Maqtal, this journey, they say, takes longer than it should have. Why? Because they kept taking the women and children to different places in order to celebrate the killing of Abu Abdullah. They went to one village, another village, all to celebrate. Now they've come to Sham. And they have not entered Sham. They are waiting outside Sham for days, just while they prepare the celebration for their entry. You know, when you walk, especially those who walk to Karbala, your feet hurt, your feet ache. But what about the feet of those women and children in the hot sands going into Sham? Some of them have ropes on their legs as they walk, so they can't even extend their legs properly. Some people's backs hurt when you walk for a long time. What about that back of Imam Sajjad, which is bent during this journey? He can't even stand up straight because of the force of the ropes on his body. Sometimes when you walk, you feel tired. What about the heat on the women and children of this family? Sometimes when you walk, the women and children take certain priority, especially if they have young children. But on this journey, when a young child falls from a camel, no one picks that child back up. No one takes it again. They keep walking. How many small, tiny qabr do we have of those young children who died on that journey? When you go on this journey, you can cover your head, your face. But what if you have no hijab, if it was taken from you? And now the sun beats on your face. As they enter into Sham, they make them wait for a long time. When they open the door, now Imam Sajjad stands to try and enter Sham. But he can't stand. Why? There's a rope from his neck attached to every woman and child in this camp. So if he tries to stand, Sakina says, I can't breathe anymore. And if he tries to sit, they say, why are you sitting? It's a time to enter Sham. So he starts to crawl into the gates of Sham. As they enter Sham, the music and the drums start playing. People start coming to dance. Why? The killers have come. Why? Because Zainab is entering Sham now. Every Sharabi comes out into the streets and says, now the daughters of Zahra have entered into Sham. As they enter, think of this Qiyamah of the Bazaar of Sham. As they walk in, they say when Imam Sajjad was walking, he says, as I could walk, around me were women and children. There was no man around me except the heads of my father, of my brothers, of my nephews. They were surrounding us. When I looked up, I saw the heads of Abbas alayhi salam. When I looked left and right, there's Akbar and there's Qasim. But when I looked in the distance, I saw the head of my father, Abu Abdullah. This is my father, Husaini, who's now his head is on a spear, entering into Sham. As they enter, women and children are going through this wall. As they walk through the streets are very tight together. There's big crowds coming towards them. So if someone speaks, they can hear what they say. What if someone does la'an of Ali to Zainab? She hears this. What if someone says, you are the enemy? They hear this. One person comes and starts cursing them, doing la'an of them. They say, do you not know we are Ali Muhammad? Where is your Islam if you're cursing me? As they're speaking, one person raises a stone and throws throws it to the head of Abu Abdullah. The stone strikes the cheek of Husain. Another comes and starts cursing. They shout, how do they enter? Those who've been to Sham, how narrow is that bazaar? And they're walking through this bazaar. As they are entering, one riwayat says many years later, Imam Syed alayhi salam, there was a part of his head which was continuously wounded. It was as if it was burnt. Why? He says, while I was walking in Sham, some were throwing stones at us. I tried to move. Some were hitting us. I tried to move. But one person, while I was walking, threw hot water from one of the buildings. I tried to move, but there were chains on my body. Because I couldn't move, I felt some of the boiling water on my head. But not just me. I saw Sakina running. Some of the water went on her body. I said, come to me, Sakina. This is how they enter into Sham. Whether they get stones, whether they get water, whether they are cursed. They say one person comes to Imam alayhi salam. Remember, everything hurts him, but this hurts him the most. Why? They've taken his maqam. While he's walking towards Sham, someone comes and says, I feel sorry for you. I want to give you some charity. He says, do you not know something? What? I am Syed. You can't give me charity. He says, who are you? He says, I'm not just any Syed. Fatima is my grandmother. How can you give me sadaqah? So years later, when they said, Imam, what hurts you the most? He didn't say Karbala or Kufa. He said, Asham, Asham, Asham. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Radhan wa qadahi wa tasliman bi amrih. Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. For the sake of these women and children who walked into Sham, help every Zawar walking to Imam Husain alayhi salam. Let them go and come back safely to us, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, this majlis we have today on this Thursday night, made any of our tears which have shed, allow us the forgiving of all of our sins, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, those women and children we remembered, for their sake, help every marid and miskeen and da'if from our qawm, Ya Allah. And finally, Ya Allah, for this majlis and our attendance and our participation, allow us to be close to our Imam al-Hujjah al-Qaim wal-Zaman, inshaAllah, and his mission, Ya Allah. اللهم إني أسألك بحق فاطمة وأبيها بعليا بنيها والسر المستعوذ فيها أن تصلي على محمد وآل محمد.
Ya Husain, Ya Husain, Ya Husain, Ya Husain, Ya Husain. अज़मतों की मालिका बाजार में, 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 अज़मतों की मालिका बाजार में। हाय ज़ैनब बेरदा, हाय ज़ैनब बेरदा बाजार में, अज़मतों की मालिका बाजार में, अज़मतों की मालिका बाजार में, अज़मत में, अज़मतों की मालिका। शाम वालों ने सजाया شام کو دعوتیں بھیجی ہجوم عام کو، شام والوں نے سجایا شام کو دعوتیں بھیجی ہجوم عام کو، لائے پھر آلے ابا، لائے پھر آلے ابا بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ بازار میں، عظمتوں بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ۔ ایک خطبہ آپ نے ایسا پڑھا، ایک صحابی پیٹھ کر کہتا رہا، ایک خطبہ آپ نے ایسا پڑھا، ایک صحابی پیٹھ کر کہتا رہا، آ گئے کیا مرتضیٰ، آ گئے کیا مرتضیٰ بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ۔ سر کے خون میں تر ہے جس کی اب جبیں، در حقیقت شامیوں زینب نہیں، سر کے خون میں تر ہے جس کی اب جبیں، در حقیقت شامیوں زینب نہیں، آ رہی ہے فاطمہ، آ رہی ہے فاطمہ، آ رہی ہے فاطمہ بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ۔ ہائے کھٹن بازار والے مرحلے، ایک رسی سے بندھے 12 گلے، ہائے کھٹن بازار والے مرحلے، ایک رسی سے بندھے 12 گلے، خون عابد رو پڑا، خون عابد رو پڑا بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ۔ شامیوں میں وارث تطہیر ہوں، اور حیا اور شیم کی تفسیر ہوں، شامیوں میں وارث تطہیر ہوں، اور حیا اور شیم کی تفسیر ہوں، بنت زہرا نے کہا، بنت زہرا نے کہا بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ۔ کون ہے جو خوف سے سو یہ نہیں، شمر سے سہمی ہے یوں روئی نہیں، کون ہے جو خوف سے سو یہ نہیں، شمر سے سہمی ہے یوں روئی نہیں، کس کا بندھا ہے گلا، کس کا بندھا ہے گلا بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ بازار میں، عظمتوں لکا۔ اے خدا اس کو بہت توقیر دے، درد اہل بیت کی جاگیر دے۔ اے خدا اس کو بہت توقیر دے، درد اہل بیت کی جاگیر دے۔ جس نے یہ نوحہ سنا، جس نے یہ نوحہ سنا بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ بازار میں، عظمتوں کی مالکہ یا حسین۔
جب ہو کے رہا قید سے گھر جائے گی زینب، جب ہو کے رہا قید سے گھر جائے گی زینب، جب ہو کے رہا قید سے گھر جائے گی زینب، جب ہو کے زینب، جب ہو کے رہا قید سے گھر جائے گی زینب، جب ہو کے رہا قید سے گھر جائے گی زینب، جب ہو کے رہا قید سے گھر جائے گی زینب، جب ہو کے رہا قید سے گھر۔ گر تم نہ ہوئے ساتھ تو، گر تم نہ ہوئے ساتھ تو مر جائے گی زینب، جب ہو کے رہا قید سے گھر جائے گی زینب، جب ہو کے رہا قید سے۔ تم قتل ہوئے اور اجل مجھ کو نہ آئی، کس طرح میں زندہ ہوں نہ پوچھو میرے بھائی، ڈھونڈے گی تمہیں اب تو، ڈھونڈے گی تمہیں اب تو جدھر جائے گی زینب، جب ہو کے رہا قید سے گھر جائے گی زینب، جب ہو کے رہا قید سے۔ جی کھول کے بھائی میں تجھے رو نہیں پائی، افسوس تیری لاش پہ میں ننگے سر آئی، معلوم نہیں یہاں سے، معلوم نہیں یہاں سے کدھر جائے گی زینب، جب ہو کے رہا قید سے گھر جائے گی زینب، جب ہو کے رہا قید سے جائے گی زینب، جب ہو سوگاٹ میں یہ خون بھرا کرتا تیرے بھائی، کہہ دوں گی یہ سامان بچا کر ہوں میں لائی، روضے پہ محمد کے، روضے پہ محمد کے اگر جائے گی زینب، جب ہو کے رہا قید سے گھر جائے گی زینب، जब हो के रिहा एगी ज़ैनब जब हो के रिहा कैद से घर जाएगी ज़ैनब। तुम कत्ल हुए और अजल मुझे को न आई, किस तरह मैं जिंदा हूँ न पूछो मेरे भाई। ढूंढेगी तुम्हें अब तो, ढूंढेगी तुम्हें अब तो, जिधर जाएगी ज़ैनब जब हो के रिहा कैद से घर जाएगी ज़ैनब जब हो के रिहा कैद से घर जाएगी ज़ैनब जब हो के रिहा कैद से घर जाए। या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन।
बर मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु। Recitation of Ziyarat-e-Warisa.
Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Assalamu alayka ya Ibn Rasulillah. Assalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alayka ya warisa Adam sifwatillah. Assalamu alayka ya warisa Nuhin nabiyillah. Assalamu alayka ya warisa Ibrahim khalilillah. Assalamu alayka ya warisa Musa kalimillah. Assalamu alayka ya warisa Isa ruhillah. Assalamu alayka ya warisa Muhammadin habibillah. Assalamu alayka ya warisa Amirul Mu'mineen waliyillah. Assalamu alayka ya ibn Muhammadin al-Mustafa. Assalamu alayka ya ibn Ali al-Murtaza. Assalamu alayka ya ibn Fatima al-Zahra. Assalamu alayka ya ibn Khadijah al-Kubra. Assalamu alayka ya Sarullah wa ibn Sarihi wal witr al-mawtur. Ashhadu annaka qad aqamta as-salat wa atayta az-zakat wa amarta bil ma'ruf wa nahayta 'anil munkar wa ata'ta Allah wa rasulahu hatta ataka al-yaqin. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرزيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة. لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك مدبلهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين. وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرزي الزكي الهادي المهدي. وأشهد أن الأمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والعروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياء ورسوله أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم موقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم أملي وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. زيارة حضرت علي أكبر عليه السلام. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد. السلام عليك يا شهيد وابن الشهيد. السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم. لعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرزيت به. ذات الشهداء كربلاء. السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأحباه. السلام عليكم يا أصفياء الله وبداء. السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله. السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليكم يا أنصار فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي ولي زكي الناصح. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي عبد الله. بأبي أنتم وأمي تبتم، وتعبت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم وفزتم فوزا عظيما. فيا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم. ساعة حضرت عباس عليه السلام. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل عباس ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا ابن سيد الوصيين. السلام عليك يا ابن أول القوم إسلاما، وأقدمهم إيمانا، وأقومهم بدين الله، وأخوتهم على الإسلام. أشهد لك أن نصحت لله ولرسوله ولأخيك فنعم الأخ المواسي. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة ظلمتك، ولعن الله أمة استحلت منك المحارم وانتهكت حرمة الإسلام. فنعم الصابر الجاهد محام الناصر، والأخ الدافع عن أخيه المجيب إلى طاعة ربه الراغب فيما زهد فيه غيره من الثواب الجزيل والثناء الجميل. والحقق الله بدرجة آبائك في جنات النعيم. السلام عليك يا ساداتي وموالي جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولى وابن مولى. السلام عليك يا قريب القربى. السلام عليك يا سلطان العرب والأجام. السلام عليك يا أبا الحسن يا ابن موسى الرضا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا بقية الله في أرضه. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب الأسر والزمان. الأمان 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 من فتنة الزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. السلام عليك يا إمام زماننا هذا. أجل الله تعالى فرجك، وسهل الله مخرجك، وظهورك وجعل من أنصارك ورحمة الله وبركاته.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كل وليك حجة الحسن صلواتك